Yo, what is up? We've got a nice two-game slate tonight. Two pretty fun games. Looking forward to Milwaukee Sixers, and we've got
Yep.
the LA battle, Clippers Lakers. Should be pretty
Yep.
fun.
Yep.
I'm going to pull up the expected lineups, injury stuff. We're pretty aware of kind of where stuff is at. Nothing like too crazy that we're waiting on for these games. For Milwaukee and the Sixers, the big one is Chris Middleton out, and I think Pat Connaughton being out is interesting for some props. We'll talk about that later. I think Grayson Allen's he's not a guy I'm like super excited to bet, but I think he's got some pretty decent lines, and obviously no Middleton is pretty big, and no Connaughton as well. I think is pretty nice for him specifically. So in that one, we'll start out with this game here. It's a 4-point spread in favor of the Sixers at home, 224 total. I think this will be a pretty good game, pretty close. I actually think both of these games can remain close. But
Yeah.
yeah, started off here. We'll start off with points. I think there's a couple point signs that I think are pretty interesting in this one. I talked about it too. I think I don't want Grayson Allen to be the first guy that's being thrown up, but I think he's just like somebody who's worth a shout just at this 11.5 line that you get on Underdog specifically. It's just a pretty good line, right? He's had pretty good showings without Middleton, just like more opportunity. And obviously no Connaughton as well. He just should be pretty solidified for like pretty strong minutes. And obviously he's starting as well. So I think that one's like one that is like on my radar, but it's not like my favorite play in this game or anything. I also like Drew. I know it's 19.5 here on Underdog versus 18.5 on some of these other books, but I like Drew tonight. I like him in some other places though.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else on the point side for Milwaukee specifically you really like, or do you want to talk about some Sixers guys?
Uh, Brooke Lopez and like the bigs for Milwaukee is interesting. If I dove deep into it more, that'd be more interesting. But I think Grayson Allen is an interesting one. Like you said, without Pat, he covered this once, almost twice, the two games last year. He had 25 and 10. But yeah, no Chris Middleton and no Connaughton helps a lot. And then Drew Holiday, I like his points. I think I agree. I like something else that we'll talk about later more than
Mm-hmm.
that. And then Giannis at 30.5, off of just sheer volume without Chris Middleton. That's always going to be interesting, right? I
Yeah,
know it's like,
the
holy
30
cow, it's super high
yeah,
already,
the
but
31.5 line and like the season opener for them. But I mean, it's Giannis, right? It's just one of those like, yeah, it's Giannis. Like it's, you can see
yeah,
even a lot of these books. I mean, Caesar's over here -145 on the over at 31.5, which is just pretty crazy. So, I mean, the value is there
yep,
even at that crazy line. But how
yeah,
about on the Sixers side? We're seeing, for the Sixers, we're seeing Harden get the points respect right now off of that like amazing showing in that Celtics game. He a lot for last season was a 19 and a half, 18 and a half, 20 and a half maybe point guy, not as aggressive, but he's up to 22 and a half in still a tough matchup, right? Milwaukee defensively, especially with Drew. So
yep.
do you like Harden here just off of, sheer volume and kind of what you expect from him this season, or do you prefer
Yeah,
other
no, I
plays?
still like I still like Harden at his points line here. Last game, he played against them last year. He had 32 in his one game with the Sixers against them.
Yeah.
And again, no Middleton helps Harden as well defensively. I think Grayson Allen is a solid defender who will probably be on him. He'll probably see Drew stick to him more as
Yeah.
well. But we've already seen him play against those same defenders, and so he had 32 last year with them. Over the course of his career, obviously, it's going to be pretty close to that 22.5 line. But the one game that we did see with the 76ers, he did cover and he shot a lot. And so it's at home in Philly. I like Harden and Embiid both to have pretty solid games. I mean, obviously, Embiid offensively, he ended up getting there, but it wasn't as great as people thought opening night. So Embiid is also really interesting because you kind of get those lines moved down a little bit.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I still really like Harden at 22.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm cool to move on to, we can mention, a Maxey and Harris here at this 18.5, 14.5 line. I don't know if I'm like especially like excited about playing either of these. I think it's like a tempting line, Toby at 14.5. But man, I mean, we just kind of saw him disappear a little bit in the second half, right? He had a really good start to that game, and then I think the second half is a little indicative of what I expect from just kind of like Tobias Harris this season, like overall. Not that I think he's going to be like this crazy bust. Like he'll have games and opportunities, but like when you're on the floor with Harden, Embiid, and you've got Tyrese Maxey breaking out alongside you, it's hard to get super excited. And then Maxey at 18.5, I think is like a decent line. I don't dislike it, but it's tough because you put that up against Drew Holiday, in my opinion, and it's really hard to not like Drew more at that same line, just with the offense, the opportunity. I feel like the usage is very solidified for Drew, and while I think it'll come from Maxey, it's just, it's tough for me to get really excited about that. But we can go over to assists if you want to. I don't know if you want to add something there.
No, I agree. I think if you like Maxey at 18.5, then you should love Holiday at 18.5, right? Maxey never really has done super well against Milwaukee. In the one game he did kind of pop off, that was without Harden, when Harden wasn't there yet. So I'm not in love with Maxey there just because defensively, the Bucks are good, obviously, right? And whether he has Holiday or Grayson Allen on him, I trust, Harden's usage and ability a bit more to cover his 22.5 than Maxey to cover his 18.5.
Yeah, definitely. And I clicked over here. We're on assists here, and this is the play. I like Drew at 19.5, and I actually kind of like his PRA too. Obviously, if I like both of these plays, but I really like this assist line at 6.5. I mean, you can see really good value, right? We're minus 20 at least across all books for the most part, and you're getting that 6.5 line on Underdog. Really like the over there with 11 games without Drew last season. He hit this pretty consistently, averaged 7.4 assists. So I feel pretty comfortable about him being able to do that. A lot of monster assist games too. And so I kind of just feel like, Drew usage overall in this game, I think this game can be a higher scoring one. The 224 is a pretty nice total. I think this can be like a 225, 230 total game that I expect to be close. I think both these teams are going to be really competitive. So really like that line for Drew. We got to see it in the playoffs as well. A lot of those stretches without Middleton, he just was able to have these really nice scoring, but also really nice assist games. So I really like that Drew line.
Yeah, looking at these assist lines, not a lot of them that I love, right?
Yeah.
Drew, I do like more than everything else. Harden at 9.5 is a little high for me against this defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Drew's my favorite assist line here. I still think I might like his PRA more because I like his points at 18.5. We know he's a good rebounder, and I agree. I really like his assist line. And Drew's one of those guys where, like we talked about this last time. Points is such a big thing, specifically for upside for PRA. And I think Drew specifically, definitely with Middleton out, has that. And so I like Harden, Holiday's assists, but I really like his PRA as well. I think it's at 30.5, 31.5.
Yeah, 30.5. It's nice too. We talk about Underdog. There's like some times where there's, Underdog's pretty sharp on the lines as far as, you're getting them. We like the value of the lines on like a lot of sports books, and you get to see the minus 130, but then Underdog has it, maybe one tick higher. Here you've got good value on it, right? It's minus 120 across the board. Still, you got minus 143 on this Pinnacle line, and I mean it's nice, right? 30.5. It's one of those, like, I feel good about him being able to have consistent scoring and be like an 18-19, and the PRA nod is definitely a nod to his ability to have a 13 assist game, right? Like he's done that without Middleton. We saw that a few times last season. So PRA, I think, is one of those, hey, I mean, if Drew is having one of those blow up, 20, 26, 25 plus point nights, he probably doesn't hit his assists. I mean, he can, but like, obviously if we're seeing the volume for him to get there. So I think PRA is one of those, like, you do feel a little safer. And obviously you like the guys who, especially at the guard spot, are able to kind of add on some rebounding. So yeah, I like that. I like that shot for Drew. I think all three of those I'm cool with, but I think PRA is one of those that you definitely like if you like his points and assists for sure.
Yeah, I think it's probably my favorite play of this game. It's his PRA. It's funny, I'm looking at Harden's PRA, man. I think jumped up from the last game. Right. It was at like 32 maybe.
Yeah.
Last game 31, and now it's at 38, 37. I think there's really good, obviously there's some good value there, and like everything we talked about, I think Holiday just feels the safest, feels like a really good play, especially without Middleton. So that 30.5 is probably my favorite play of this game.
Yeah, I think it's right. You get like kind of cute when you're looking at his points line and then his assists and then his rebounds, and you kind of think stat line wise as far as like what the books are giving you, and you look at Drew and he's got, the overs being favored for all three of these, right? The 4.5 rebounds, his 6.5 assists, his 19.5 points. It's at least a push, or sorry, at least a pick 'em, if not favoring the over. So I mean, him missing all three of those and going 19, 6, and 4. If that happens, that's 29. He's right on the edge, right? So you just like get that. He gets an extra bucket. He adds a rebound or two. So yeah, I do really like that a ton. And I think a lot of these other lines too, I think Jrue's the one that jumps out to me just from a usage standpoint, because I look at Giannis, especially on underdog here, like 12.5 rebounds. A lot of the Giannis lines I usually like to peek at. His PRA is just a little bit, I don't want to say high, but from a value perspective, it's the higher end of what already is high across sports books. So I want to play Giannis somewhere, but I think when you just kind of look at other plays, I think Jrue jumps out more as a value in this game.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to Grayson Allen a little bit more. I like his points line. We mentioned without Pat there and him being, able to score a little bit more and shoot a little bit more. I really like his 3-point lines. They don't have it. Underdog doesn't have it listed yet. If you can find it at 1.5, if somehow Underdog puts it at 1.5, I know some sites don't even have it up yet. I think that's smash play at 1.5. Obviously, the value shows that.
Right. Yeah.
I still also just don't hate 2.5. I mean, if his lines
would you play it at 2? I think the way these lines are kind of set up, a lot of times you see the 2 flat with the way we're seeing the odds break out. Do you like it at 2 for sure?
Yeah, I think 2 is because like I said, I think it's a smash for 1.5. So I think he'll get 2. So I think 2 flat. It's also just very safe with the upside, because I think if his line is at 11.5, knowing Grayson Allen, he'll shoot the 3 ball a good amount, specifically against the 76ers team. I know the Bucks like to shoot the 3 a lot, and so without Pat, without Ingles, without Middleton, I think he'll get a lot of opportunity to do that. And if he can get 2 threes, like if you can get him at 2 flat, I think that's a very safe play with upside to obviously cover it. And then just knowing his points at 11.5, if you like his points, if you like him to get 12 points, if he gets 12 points or more and he doesn't have 2 threes, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like all NBA players can like score right on the interior, get some open layups or whatever. But Grayson Allen, especially in this offense, feels kind of like you're getting 2 threes for sure if you're covering that. I like that. And I mean the way we've seen, like obviously Jrue, right, great passer. No Middleton obviously helps out a ton, but the way Giannis has kind of like developed his game, right, last season, just kind of in general and in the playoffs as well, we saw a lot of really high assist games off of his ability to see the court a lot better when he's in the lane, and I think Grayson Allen complements that really well.
Yeah, and I think Giannis should be probably driving a good amount this game. I think they'll probably want to come out and attack Embiid, specifically Giannis. And Embiid will probably be down low for the most part. They'll probably try to stretch the floor with him with Portis and Lopez. But if there's any teams that Grayson Allen probably wouldn't drive against a lot or do a ton of backdoor cuts, it's probably Embiid. So I like him and with Giannis in the paint. So I could see this playing out where Giannis is driving and is attacking the paint a lot.
And just like a good defensive team, right? Like the Sixers, I know people like to clown on like Harden, but these good defensive teams that are just like, I think like just smart, solid defenders, right? Especially when you add in a guy like PJ Tucker, I think opens up a little bit more for guys like Grayson Allen to, kind of be a more, not focal point, but be more involved offensively.
For sure. Just
getting those looks. Yeah. I like that. Anything else in this game you want to take a look at before we hop over to Lakers Clippers?
No, I think we're good. I know we didn't talk about smashing any of these big guys' plays like Embiid and Giannis, but I think it's just because they're a little rich in a competitive defensive probably game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike them. It's kind of one of those like, I mean, if you really like Embiid, yeah, for sure, I don't dislike it. It's just one of those, like we had mentioned, for both these guys, Embiid and Giannis, underdog specifically is on the higher end. So like, I do like these guys tonight, but it's not crazy, right? You got -120s for the unders for Embiid at 27.5, but it is, you get that extra point for a play that I like, but don't want to smash. I'd prefer to go like Drew PRA, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's head over to the Lakers Clippers. This game here, from an injury standpoint. Nothing massive. I mean, you expect LeBron and AD to play. it's kind of the same guys that were out last time for the Lakers, and then from the Clippers, it's the return. We've got Kawhi tonight. Pretty excited for that. And then Reggie should play as well. I know he's listed as may not play, but he should play. And yeah, this game's interesting. This one's also a pretty close spread, 5.5 for the Clippers. 225 total as well.
There's been news of the Clippers taking Kawhi off the bench to start the season, which would be very interesting. I don't know how much of that is smoke, but that's something to keep an eye out for, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I think, right, in his first kind of like regular season action, right? I think that's something we've seen before, and like wouldn't shock me to kind of be like, oh, that's kind of weird that like Kawhi didn't play as much, but we'll take a look at some of his lines. And I think with that considered, I don't know if I love a lot of Kawhi stuff tonight in this first game back, but definitely something to keep in mind when you're kind of looking at some of these other lines. With that being said, any of these points, a pretty tough game for the Lakers. LeBron had a really solid scoring showing kind of later in that game. Didn't start out super hot, but obviously had a really strong finish. You like LeBron at 28.5 or AD? AD should have, I mean, say what you will about it. A ton of shots, did not, he missed a ton of shots that AD usually makes, I will say, in that last game.
Yeah, I like the usage for AD to get there to cover 24.5. He doesn't look great. I'm defensively, I'm more scared of LeBron at 28, 29.5 because of who, Kawhi and Paul George coming off being the wings to guard LeBron in this game.
Yeah.
So matchup wise, I like AD, and I actually like Russell Westbrook at 15.5. The Clippers guards were pretty bad defensively last year. They have John Wall, but John Wall was a good defender in his heyday. He's by no means in his prime anymore, but he'll probably also come off the bench. So I don't know how much we'll see that Wall Westbrook matchup. If Westbrook's on Reggie Jackson, I mean, he should be able to feast on him.
Yeah.
And especially if they play denial on LeBron with Paul George, Kawhi, what have you. I like Westbrook at 15.5. I like AD at 24.5. I don't love LeBron. Again, I'm not going to take his under just because it's LeBron. Find a way to score against anybody. Right. But yeah, I don't want people to be like worried about Westbrook just because of the memes and Westbrook, all this different stuff. Like, yeah, he has off nights. He's he's a very polarizing character. But at the end of the day, it's a bad defense he's playing against. He covered this last game. And he's gonna play. He's stats. So
yeah, I do think there was a weird energy around him potentially not starting. We got the Westbrook in the chat for sure. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like, man, I think it does kind of feel like one of those games where like you could see a decent amount of Westbrook just defensively with what you expect from the Clippers. And he shot a ton last game, right? So I mean, if you're getting Westbrook, attacking and taking shots, even if he's with the starting unit with LeBron and AD. I don't hate it at 15.5. That's not a bad line.
And then for the supporting casts, I would like to see Kendrick Nunn up here, to be honest. But
I would be interested to see that line.
I don't hate Lonnie Walker either. I liked how involved he was last game, and again, I think he has a decent matchup. Whether he starts, like, again, we're not going to know these starting lineups very often. This Lakers team is notorious for sending out a ton of starting lineups, with injuries as well. So either way, whether he starts or doesn't, I don't hate Lonnie Walker at 10.5. It's a bit more scary. It's just kind of a little shout that I have. I'm not saying slam it, but
yeah, planting the flag on Westbrook. I don't think we want to be known as guys who are planting a flag on Westbrook.
I'm more taking the flag out on people that are planting the flag that he's just a bum. Because he's not. He's talented. He's gonna get stats. So it's like, don't be turned off of him just because it's Westbrook.
Yeah.
So I don't hate this line, but I'm not saying it's my favorite play of the night. But I'm saying if you're on the edge and you're like, oh man, it's Westbrook.
Right. Like Westbrook to score, 16 points is not like, oh, he's going to have himself a game tonight. Like, it's just like, I think like the opportunity is going to be there. It's in the usage to the extent to get him there. Looking here over at assists. I think like it's tough. Like LeBron is really interesting. I really would like this line if it was a 6 flat, just the way that the odds are kind of broken out. I don't dislike it at 6.5, but obviously the value's not there at that point. I just think the way LeBron plays a little bit, obviously all the memes with the Lakers not having 3-point shooting, he still is, especially with AD, you're gonna see really strong assist games from LeBron this season.
Yeah, I actually still really like it at 6.5. I mean,
Mm.
he covered it last game. Obviously, it didn't look great to start, but he I think he'll. I like his matchup in this for assists. I think he's
Yeah.
obviously going to be involved, and again, it's another game where he's going to probably find himself in tougher scenarios against his team defensively. And I like the matchups that Westbrook and AD have, and so I
Yep.
think he can kind of manipulate the defense in a way to help them win, where he can get AD open, get Westbrook looks, and so like I guess it just kind of fits the narrative that I have in my head for this game, where it's like LeBron's assists and then AD Russ points, right? So that kind of
Yeah.
fits the scheme and the defense that I'm looking at for this team. And even not like regardless of stuff sheer usage, it's 6.5 assists. It's not a lot,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
We saw
That's
what he
true.
did last year, so I still like it a lot. I think these lines. I don't think we're going to see a lot of 5.5, 6.5 assist lines throughout the season.
Yeah. If only they had better 3-point shooting than Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. He covered it with an abysmal supporting cast,
Yeah.
and so if they can actually hit some threes, like he'll be fine.
Yeah. How about on the Clippers side? I know this is another
Yep.
one that, man, it's one of those like it's the 5 flat line, but man, Paul George at man, if he was 4.5, I think it would be one of my favorite plays. I still kind of like it at 5,
Yep.
but yeah, I like Paul George.
No, yeah, I think there are some books like obviously here that have it at 4.5, 5 on underdog, but again, another thing that I love at 4.5, I think he gets 5 or more. And so again, 5 is like sure it pushes, but it feels like a very safe push play. With the upside obviously to get more. So it's similar to what was the other line we were just talking about? Grayson
Grayson?
Allen that 2 threes. No,
Oh
Grayson
yeah,
Allen
we
like
kind
a
of we kind of
one and a
agreed
half
that line.
smash play. Right, but 1.5 smash play. If it's at 2, another safe. I still think he covers. Same thing for Paul George. I really like him at 4.5. And then if it's at 5, even 5.5, I would probably still take. I really like Paul George's assists as
Oh, okay.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We'll kind of see the way this Clippers team. I'm not like too worried about like the impact of obviously Kawhi back, but I mean from an assist standpoint with Paul George, obviously John Wall this season. This offense is still going to run through Paul George and Kawhi when he's playing.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'll flip over here to rebounds. We're not the biggest rebound guys, but we are not blind to value. Any of these just kind of first glance jumping out to you?
Let me get over there to it.
Yeah, you got Kawhi
Um,
at 5 flat. I think these kind of like first game back guys. For like, I
mhm.
look at that and I go like, yeah, like that's pretty good, but I don't know. It's hard for me to like fall in love with it. You got AD at 9 flat. Zoo at 8.5.
Yeah, again, I don't hate Westbrook. So these Westbrook lines, 15.5, 6.5. I don't hate them, but with this whole lineup mess, the one time that's like, okay, Westbrook's going to play, 20, 25 minutes this game, it's kind of just throws it all down the toilet. Very much a minutes based thing for me as well, because I think if
Yeah,
he's on the court, he's going to be involved. And so
right.
I like the 6.5. I still like the 5 for Leonard. Him coming off the bench is a little weird. I think they'll probably monitor him a little bit, but I think he'll end up playing close to 30 minutes anyway. So I do like Kawhi's rebound line.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me, right, if we get like a minutes restriction thing. I think Kawhi will continue to be one of those guys who's like a rest guy in some spots during the season. But yeah, it is first game back, and so I think for those, like, even if you like some of these Kawhi lines, you don't have to bet everything that looks good. So like in these kind of like, even if it's only a 20% chance that it's really weird minutes for Kawhi, might not be worth it to play. But I'm sure as hell not playing the unders for Kawhi stuff, because I think these lines are pretty fair, pretty decent.
Yeah. I also like Anthony Davis at 9 rebounds against the Clippers.
Yeah.
He's a. I don't. I don't think there's a lot of competition as far as the glass goes with like Zubats.
Yeah,
And
the
he can
Clipper
play.
side, yeah.
Yeah. So 9 flat again, another flat line that feels really safe. So I like that line too.
Yeah. Didn't LeBron have like 15 boards? Yeah, LeBron's one of those. I think the tough thing for me with LeBron is like I definitely would take the over if I had to pick a side on this. But for me, it feels more like a pick 'em with that line with what we traditionally see from LeBron with AD in the lineup and then having a traditional five that plays if they do play alongside. Yeah. Because without AD last season, LeBron was not hitting this line consistently for most of the season. So I know last game looked really good, but I just looking at traditionally what we've seen from LeBron over the past year or two, I think this is a pretty high line for me to like love the over anything, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's another reason like why rebounds are so tough, right? 'Cause it's yes, there's people that are in positions to get more rebounds. There's teams that are worse at rebounding, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, LeBron getting 15 rebounds be a night in, night out thing, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
and they're going to throw out probably different lineups out there, which really impacts how they set up on the floor. So
Yeah, and at
yeah,
the end of the day,
LeBron.
we are just rebound haters. I will really only play rebounds if I feel really good about like the value in a line. Because at the
Yeah,
end of the day, even for these like good rebounders, when it's at a high line, it's just a lot of times it's like where did the ball bounce, you know? Um,
yeah, and you can see the kind of the unpredictability of it with these books, right? There's a lot of books that are flipped on this line, so there is value, but kind of not value.
yeah, just yeah, catch me betting something else. All right, I mean we're open to talk about anything, but I think just kind of looking at these lines, I think my favorite play of the night, I think we're in the same camp, was in the first game, and it was Drew Holiday. Honestly, Drew Holiday
Yeah.
anything, but I think that kind of lends itself to PRA that we had looked at, especially on Underdog, where you have kind of the decent value on that line.
Yep.
So I
Yeah, and
believe
I
that
wouldn't be
was
surprised if it moved
30
up
and a
either.
half, right? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if that moved up either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No Middleton. It's a pretty
'Cause I
good
know
line
some
for
books have
Drew.
already moved it.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean
looking
you've
at
got
here.
right. You're a pick'em here on FanDuel for the most part, basically at 108 to 118. Yeah, I think it's a good line for Drew. I like his points, like his assists. If I was betting one individually, it'd probably be assists, but points a close second. But obviously that lends itself to PRA too.
Yep.
What about a second play? And we can kind of close out on that. I think there's a lot of
Mhm.
close seconds for me. I think Drew is like in its own tier for me as far as like plays I really like tonight. And then I think there's a decent amount of plays that are kind of like more secondary that I still like and probably will play alongside it, but definitely prefer Drew.
Yeah, Drew's my favorite out of that game. Second play for me would probably be Paul George at 4.5 if you can get him. 4.5 assists. I really like that line.
Yeah.
What else would be a favorite? I like LeBron assists. I probably like Paul George assists more. But yeah, it's probably Drew Holiday PRA and Paul George assists. Yeah, I'm not quite ready to kind of smash or lock in a fringe player, a role player yet for some of these lines, right?
Yeah.
It's a little early in
It
the
is
season to
second
kind
game.
of yeah.
Oh,
So it's like
first game for two of these teams, yeah.
right, because some of these teams, like you saw a little bit the first game, but specifically with the Lakers, right? If you're talking about Lonnie Walker, for instance, like I wouldn't be shocked if they threw out a whole nother rotation and Kendrick Nunn plays double the minutes that Lonnie Walker does, and all of a sudden you're just dead, right? So, I'd give it more time to kind of really feel comfortable about these role players, but obviously the big guys, they're going to play if they're healthy.
Yeah. Definitely. Cool. Well,
Good.
like those tonight, and I don't we didn't victory lap, but the 2 for 2 last night on our two favorite. Shout out to Jade and
And
Ivy.
now,
Right, there's still time to victory lap before we end the stream here.
100%,
Shout out to
100%
Jade and
here.
Ivy. Shout out to Porzingis being healthy, grabbing some boards,
Yep,
and
yep.
I
He tweaked his ankle in the warm ups. He fought through for the boys.
for the boys.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys hanging out. Good luck tonight, and we
Yeah,
will see you in the next one. Peace out.
sir.